With that said, let me introduce my very first guest this hour. His name is George Mwaswaru, and he's the brand manager for Sawa Soap from Pwani Oil.
Yes.
Karibu sana to the show.
Thank you, Joyce.
Now, we want to talk about general body hygiene, which is so important, guys. And of course, one of the most effective, most basic ways for us to do that, to protect ourselves from, just not smelling really good, smelling really funky, and also, preventing illnesses, is just that good personal hygiene. It really helps you feel good about yourself. It gives you a nice boost in the morning when you've taken a shower and you smell good. So, George, let's talk about personal hygiene. I think, unfortunately, when you look at sort of our rural communities, they were very hardworking communities.
Yeah.
And so things like hygiene were almost considered like a waste of time. It's like, kuna shamba inafaa ilimwe, you know what I mean? And you wouldn't really pay much attention to that. But talk to us about why, hygiene is so important. Pwani Oil, obviously, you guys were in one sort of, you had the food industry, but now you've branched out a little bit. Talk to us about why you've delved into this side as well.
First of all, thank you for having me here today. Now, as Pwani, our business is predominantly the cooking oils and fats, but then we also have a section where we deal in personal care and laundry care, where we have soaps and detergents. Specifically with this topic, personal hygiene, we have soaps that are used for bathing, and our flagship brand would be Sawa. And going back to why personal hygiene is very critical is that, first of all, it ensures that you don't get diseases, and it also helps you bring up your self-esteem, because if you're smelly and not looking good, it tends to have an overall impact on how people treat you. So we find that because of our brands, we are able to help the country as well as Africa maintain very good personal hygiene, which is part of what we'll be talking about today.
All right.
Yeah.
So, if we're to talk about then what your soap, for example, is offering, what should be the basics of a good soap that one should look for to be able to maintain that personal hygiene?
A good soap will need to have a mild fragrance. It will need to have a high fatty matter, and it's usually over 70%. And most bathing soaps usually tend to have that. And it should also be so gentle on the skin so that it doesn't cause any skin complications. And maybe to add, personal hygiene is so much more than just bathing. It also has oral care. It has your clothes.
Right.
Yes.
Okay. So if then we are saying there's oral care to consider, there's your body to consider.
Yes.
It's even the hair, right? So personal hygiene should really cover one head to toe.
Yes.
Absolutely. And there's a lot of infections that are actually spread, through our hands, through the things that we touch. And many people don't have a habit of washing their hands well. There's proper technique to washing hands too. And you need to do it with soap.
Yes.
It's not just running your hands under water.
Yes.
But talk to us about infections and how just developing these practices could be really important in just preventing these diseases that we're talking about.
Okay. Before you eat any food, after you've gone to the bathroom, after you've touched someone who is sick or touched places that are considered unclean, a garbage bag, a dustbin, or even public places, you're required to wash your hands. And the washing of hands is very critical because it prevents skin infections, it prevents diarrhea, it prevents some other long-term diseases that you can get by not washing hands. And according to CDC, some of the most communicable diseases are spread by not washing hands. And if a community washes its hands more frequently, and we've seen campaigns geared to children that help to inculcate this habit,
right,
they tend to then reduce the occurrences of diseases.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I think that's going to be playing particularly very well right now as kids are on holiday.
Yeah.
So perhaps we might be seeing a lot more occurrences of illness and disease during this period.
Yes.
Because kids are at home, they're outside playing, it's rainy.
Yes.
So there's a lot for parents then to be concerned about right now.
For sure. Yeah.
Okay, and then let's talk about feet because again, there's a large collection of sweat glands on our feet.
Yeah.
And hygiene there is very important. Now, at least I know many ladies will opt to go for a pedicure. It's very relaxing. But wanaume sijui kama hiyo game nacheza. But talk to us about, hygiene even for our feet.
Our feet have some of the highest concentration of sweat glands. And for most people, they're usually in socks and shoes.
Yeah.
So you end up sweating a lot, but because it's fully covered, the sweat is not able to evaporate.
Yeah.
That then provides a good environment for bacteria to break down the sweat and then cause a myriad of fungal infections. And you find that it's because of this that most people also have smelly feet.
Yeah, it's the bacteria.
Yes. So you have to ensure that you do clean your feet daily, if especially you wear shoes and socks.
Yeah.
And you also have to ensure that your socks also are of very good quality. Otherwise, then they will not be able to absorb the sweat.
Right.
And when cleaning, you have to then clean and ensure that you dry effectively.
Right.
And use soap.
So hii story ya kusema nitavaa hizi socks for 3 days juu kunanyesha na hakuna jua ya kuzikausha.
You're just piling bacteria on your feet.
You talk to your fellow men. I'm not trying to point any fingers. I'm not pointing any fingers, but
Yeah, you're piling bacteria, and in the end of that, you end up getting athlete foot, and you also have very smelly feet. And it's uncomfortable, especially when you go to households where you're forced to remove your shoes.
Sure,
Yeah.
absolutely. Yeah.
And even for our spouses.
It's true.
Yeah, it's really uncomfortable.
And like you mentioned in the beginning, I mean, it can affect self-esteem so significantly.
For sure.
When one doesn't smell good, or is conscious that, oh gosh, I've been dealing with this issue either on my feet or on my hair, on my body.
Yeah.
It can make one really self-conscious, and you can hold yourself back from so many things because you're not confident.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true.
All right. So as we continue talking about this then, let's talk about even hair, right? A lot of times hair is one of those things that we forget that hygiene there matters as well.
Yeah.
I think we think of our nywele zetu na vichwa vyetu as very tough and whatnot, but it's the same thing. There's still, living organisms. Your scalp is living and breathing, and hygiene matters there as well.
Yes. And you find, especially for ladies, they seem to be a routine that the hair is shampooed and cleaned. But for men, it's not. It's usually when you do the shower, you just run through water and some soap, and you don't pay any attention to your scalp.
Yeah.
And what that causes is eventually you have a scalp that has dandruff, and possibly because it's not cleaned effectively, it becomes a breeding ground for bacteria. And you should actually, because when you start the showering process, your first area to start with is the head. So you should actually pay attention to the hair before you even move to the other sections of the body.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Very interesting discussion here today. And I'm just thinking, a lot of guys also then complain about the types of soap that would be used on their bodies, right? Because it's not just about picking anything. Don't just wash your body with, detergent ya nguo. Because the pH, there's something to do with the pH of your body, which manufacturers should be paying a lot of attention to, when they label something a body soap or a body lotion or a body this. You have to take into account, pH levels of the body and the skin.
Yes.
So that, it's not sensitive for a lot of people.
Yes.
Right? So, are there any sort of particular factors that you would encourage one to look out for as far as a good soap for their body?
The most prevalent one that we've seen as a company, especially in Kenya, is there is a habit among consumers to use soaps that are not intended for bathing as bathing soaps. And some of them cite financial reasons,
Yeah.
others cite convenience.
Yeah.
But then when you're showering, there is a minimum requirement for what a bathing soap should have.
Okay.
And one of those is a total fatty matter, which is the oil in the soap, to
Okay.
ensure that it effectively cleans your skin without removing the natural
Stripping
oils.
your body
Yes.
and making it dry.
Yes.
Okay.
And if consumers ensure that they only use bathing soaps for bathing, it will kind of sort out this problem, because most of them are formulated in a way that they can work with most skin types. Yes.
Okay. All right. So as we get ready to wrap up then here, maybe you can just run us through your final tips as far as general hygiene and what people should look out for the most.
Okay. When showering, because that's an area where we have a lot of experience in, you have to start off with your head, then you move on to your body, then finally finish off with your feet. You shouldn't start with your feet, because your feet tend to walk on surfaces that are very unclean,
Okay.
which has a tendency of bringing bacteria that was not on your body to your body. And you find, because most of us use face towels, when you use your face towel on your feet and then bring it up to your face or other sections of your body, it has a tendency to bring infections.
Right.
Yeah, so it's top down, and your face towel therefore should also be cleaned very regularly.
Right. And in fact, if you can't have a different face towel from your body towel.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and probably changed from time to time.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And same with the towels too. Wash your towels, like very important, because those harbor bacteria too as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. So finally, just before we let you go, all of us like to feel nice in the shower, and I want to shower and feel like I'm smelling good already.
Yeah.
Right in the shower. But I know some people may be sensitive to that, but it's okay to have fragrances within the soap.
Yeah.
And maybe that would be an option for a lot of people who it might be more expensive to get, both, a fancy spray and like a body soap. But nowadays there's options in the market that are trying to infuse both of those qualities.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think your soap is one of them.
Yes, Sour Soap is available in 4 variants, and they have different fragrances. So you have a rose fragrance, rose oil fragrance. We have a coconut milk fragrance. We also have a herbal fragrance with aloe vera, and white that is usually very mild.
Okay.
So that takes care of children with sensitive noses and also sensitive skins.
All right.
Which we found to be a serious concern amongst
And all
parents.
moisturizing too.
All moisturizing, with some of the highest levels of oil content in the Kenyan market.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, I heard your song playing the other day on Switch. It's very catchy.
Thank you. Thank
But
you.
thank you so much for coming through to Full Circle with Joyce and talking to us about personal hygiene. Once again, I've been talking to my guest here, George Mwasaru, who's the brand manager for Sour Soap, and a brand new soap on the market from Pwani Oil. So, go and pick yourself up a bar and try it out. Thank you, George. With that said, we're going to take a break now as we get ready for our next discussion. Stay tuned. This is Full Circle with Joyce.